seed next to Matt Fleet and Larry LeLang. Rich Peters of Boston U ran a very, very solid semifinal on day one.
He could be a factor late in the race, particularly if the race is a little slow in the first 880 yards. He's got good speed and set the national collegiate record for 1,000 meters earlier this winter.
On your mark.
So a very competitive mile race here. Matt Fleet, Larry LeLang, Rich Peters. Also Matt Hillenbrand, who didn't look that great in the semifinal, but he is twice the SEC mile champion and will certainly contend.
I'd like to show you the caliber of talent that is in the NCAAs these days. 18 men got under 4 minutes for the mile during the indoor season, and several of them did not make it even to the heats here because they didn't run fast enough to qualify. Oh, this is interesting. 29.5. Taking it out hard is Larry LeLang. He's not going to fool around with the speed of the guys like Matt Fleet. Let's see if he holds up. He has the national collegiate record set at the Melrose Games earlier this winter in Madison Square Garden. 3:52 for the mile at sea level.
And Larry, I'm thinking you're not surprised to see this happening. Obviously, he has a huge advantage. He goes to school in Tucson. This altitude is not going to bother him nearly as much as it does a number of the other athletes in this field.
57.9 for the first 440 yards. This is impressive. This is really fast time for altitude, I got to tell you. I don't think he can hold this pace the whole way. He's going to have to slow down a bit. Peters, the English high school schoolboy mile champion before he came to Boston University, is now up there. Pace has settled down a little bit. Who's moved up? Another Kenyan, Anthony Rotich from the University of Texas of El Paso. He's used to this altitude.
Are you at all surprised to see LeLang use this tactic?
No, I'm not. Obviously, I think there's some frustration at what happened last night where he got outkicked. He didn't look that good in the 5,000 meters. But, you know, when you drop down and you're a very good 5,000 and 3,000 meter runner, you're at the mile, you got a lot of confidence, you got the stamina, and you can hammer. And he's hammering here.
It continues to be LeLang, Peters, and Rotich. Though Matt Fleet is back there just trying to save himself. He does have the good leg speed, but it'll be interesting to see how he's able to adapt to the conditions here at nearly mile-high Albuquerque.
1:59.2 for the 880 yards. I talked about the altitude here. The NCAA does a conversion of what altitude and thinner air does to a miler, and it slows you down on average, according to their formula, about 5.5 seconds. If whatever time they finish at, subtract 5.5 seconds from that time. So he is really flying here at 1:59 for the first 880 yards. Matt Fleet running a smart race, laying back. He's not used to this pace at altitude.
3 laps remaining, and it still is LeLang, Peters, and Anthony Rotich of UTEP. Matt Fleet, a little bit of a gap back to him in 4th place, but certainly not a gap that he can't navigate easily. Then Matt Hillenbrand of Kentucky, currently 5th.
Fleet has great speed. He can really kick, and it'll be interesting to see if at this thin air he's got something left. He's laying off the pace, which I think is the right thing to do. It was a smart tactic by he and Hillenbrand, back for the blue of Kentucky.
1/4 of a mile to go. 2 laps of this 200-meter track. Peters now getting up on LeLang's shoulder. Rotich also tightening things up. Fleet continues about 4 meters in arrears with Hillenbrand right next to him. Then we'll go again in Dartmouth. Several athletes still in this. Remember, the top 8 score of the 10 that are entered in this competition in the men's mile.
3/4 reached in 3 minutes, 3.2 seconds. Coming up to 1 to go. This is going to be great. Look at how many guys are in contention.
At the bell, 200 meters to go as Larry LeLang still leading over Rich Peters, Anthony Rotich, and Matt Fleet still in a position where he can strike, but he's got to close that gap now. LeLang, Peters pursuing. Rotich now on the inside, poised to make a move. Now LeLang and Rotich. And Matt Fleet now making a move, but is it too late? LeLang in full sprint. Rotich right next to him. It's going to be Rotich. Rotich, LeLang, Fleet. And now Larry LeLang down to 1 remaining event where he can win an NCAA title when he came in here with the idea of winning 3.
The time unofficially 4 minutes, 2 4/10 of a second for the victory. I think Fleet ran an intelligent race. They just ran so fast. This is the equivalent of a 3:57 flat indoor mile. Rotich just, I thought, biding his time. I thought with a lap and a half to go, he looked terrific. He was comfortable. He had plenty left. He ran 4:01 at altitude just a few weeks ago, telling you that's the equivalent of about a 3:55 mile. And Mac Fleet timed it well. He just had too much real estate to make up there. Peters ran, for him, a smart race. He winds up 4th by a couple of steps. Outstanding mile race. That's the equivalent of a 3:57 flat mile at sea level.
So Anthony Rotich, the junior from UTEP, takes it from Lowy Lalang, who maybe took it out too fast and just didn't have anything at the end. And then Mac Fleet gets 6 points for the surging Oregon Ducks.